These are going to be the instructions for the two scales for your third project. They're going to be called earth tones and neutrals. These are beautiful systems and they're subtly different from one another. You'll see that I've already painted every other because just like in the even wash warm-up, in order to have scales that don't run together, you have to do a dry even wash and then wait. And they can be different saturations in scale, but each scale within itself needs to be the same saturation. It's a good exercise to try to get them all the same. So you're going to label your first one. These are going to be 2 by 12. The other scales were all 2 by 5, but this one you have to have 6 of each. So I'm going to go ahead and label these so you can see what I've been doing here. The first row is earth tones, and the first color is yellow plus mud. Just a dot of brown in it, and then green plus mud, blue plus mud, violet plus mud, red plus mud, and orange plus mud. Of course, you can also go yellow, orange, green, blue, as long as it goes in order of each primary and each tertiary on the wheel. The neutrals, however, are the 6 pairs of opposites on the wheel. They neutralize one another. So this one's yellow plus purple or violet, and then yellow orange plus blue violet, blue plus orange, blue green plus red orange, green plus red, and finally red violet plus yellow green. So you'll see some similarities. I'm working smaller so you can see what I'm doing, but it's the same thing. You just, instead of using this little flat brush, you're going to use your regular inch flat brush or bigger to fill your squares. These are dry, so now I can do every other. Yellow plus mud is going to be literally just a dot of yellow, so it looks like this. So you can see it in here. It's hard. I can't really move the palette over, but you get a sense. Basically a dot of yellow with a dot of brown, and you have to test it. It's the only way to see that you have the correct saturation. Otherwise, you're just going to be winging it. So I want to make sure my saturation is similar to the others. I might have gone a little light, but you know what? You got to stop. And I overlap by accident, got to stop. Don't even try to fix it if it gets like that. You can always redo your scale later, but don't try to fix it when it goes weird. Okay, here's blue plus brown. That's pretty good. I'm going to try to nip that in the bud because I'm going too light. So I'm going to try to get it like the other ones before it dries. I want to still get that even wash. This is the same scale that you did in your wax and salt earth tones project in beginning, and then finally red plus. The problem people have is they use too much brown. You really only need enough to neutralize it. It's a neutralized version of itself, but you don't want it to read too much like that. It's tricky. That's better. I want it to be distinct from the violet and feel like red, but still be an earth tone version of itself. No puddles if you can get your even wash practice. Alright, so I don't want that background there. Okay, that's good. I don't want to go. Let me try to get to the edge. See, because those other ones are dry, I can show you this. Otherwise, I'd have to do every other and wait again, and it's just too much. Whoop. See what happens when you start messing? Okay, so yellow plus purple. Now I'm going to mix yellow and purple. And I'll get a neutral that looks a little bit like yellow ochre. It's too light. I wouldn't know it's too light because it looked fine on the palette, but then when I went over here, it's a little bit light. So this is another great intro to your next project because you're dealing with saturation and hue. Too light, but I gotta go fast because, as you know, you're gonna get a streaky. All right, that's better. Okay. That's a little bit light, but it's pretty good. I can't do anything about it. Not perfect, But, you know, if you're really bothered by your scale, you can just redo it. Okay, now I'm mixing blue and orange. Test it. It's hard to remember to test it, but it's so important to. So you're going to get these very subtly different steps of color that are just stunning. And you'll be able to use these in your local color along with a little black if needed. Don't really use a lot of black. Green and red. But again, if people use too much brownish, in other words, they try to use even amounts, what happens is if you let the dark hue take over, every single one of these will look brown. So it's not amounts as much as it is visible amounts. I could do another layer on there, but I'm just going to leave it. So that's the process. So you're going to do the scales along with the warm up to match the object for that exercise.